I think that this will this will resonate with our Casper and Danny, with you folks doing digitization work, but really for all of us, talking about educating people about what an archive is. A lot of people, both the creators of archives and the users of archives, don't necessarily know what goes into making them accessible, and that is a trust relationship as well, as I just talked about. So, what do you wish non-archivists or non-heritage professionals understood about what goes into making a collection accessible? A lot of the labor that we do is invisible to the people that are ultimately using those collections. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Data tends to be a big one from my side. So often it's often overlooked by a lot of organizations that we work closely with about embarking on digitization projects, and then the sheer volume of data, archival master files, things like that, the storage of those, and actually the digital archive that then evolves from that sort of physical transformation as well. So that kind of sometimes is sort of under not sort of understood in that sense. A lot around there, and also one of the big ones that I find often is around metadata creation, whether that's through finding aids that already exist through the catalog and things of that nature, or whether it's going to be stepping into the AI's conversations as well. But if it's automatic sort of generated machine learning, how those are then processed again, often by human to give context and that experience there as well. So I think metadata tends to be a colossal undertaking that really brings that archive together. It's in some sense you can put information into a system and make it searchable, but there's going to be limitation of that in terms of volume of data going into a system, and then trying to make that accessible and sort of with correct taxonomies and metadata attributed to that. So I think the two from mainly talking more around the digital side of the output and that accessibility, but around the metadata side and just the sheer volume of electronic data created through a digitization or access project from there. So.
Ditto. And one thing I'll add is more on the execution piece is I'm biased, it's my business unit, but I love our people and our team. And I always wish, like, there's times when I'm sitting there, like, I wish we could just show, like, I want the client to be looking at what they are doing right this moment. Because there's a lot of hard work that goes in. There's a lot of human intervention that still needs to take place. There's a lot of implementation that still needs to take place. And so you have to find, and you have to have a team of very solid individuals that are actually doing the digitization execution. It is not the most exhilarating, exciting job that you can find, but it's also one that has to be taken very seriously. So there's a kind of a fine line between the type of individual that you would want and feel comfortable with doing this type of work. So if I could just add one thing onto Casper, it would be just visibility into the hard work and the people that are actually doing the work.
I just want to say +1 to everything that you've all said.
Yeah, I definitely think human investment is something that we don't really talk about, but emotional, intellectual, physical, all of it takes a toll on an archivist or a scanning technician, or you name it, whether you're talking about community collections or corporate collections. We are getting emotionally involved in your collections because we are looking at them with such a microscope that we start to understand whether it's the joy that you've brought to your organization or your corporation, or if it is the struggles you've been through. We're intellectually invested because the entire time that we're getting bombarded with these emotional things, we're thinking about how to make this accessible for the researcher, for the brains that are going to be coming to see these things. And then for the physical, we're picking up heavy boxes. We're hunched over a scanner. We are, whatever we're doing, it's almost always in an uncomfortable position. But it's all worth it, because in the end, you are, presenting somebody with a history that is organized and preserved and beautiful. And ultimately, you hope that their eyes light up, whether they see, a bunch of beautiful archival boxes, or they start scrolling through these, file hierarchies with all of their digitized content, or they're looking at their finished published website or online exhibit or the exhibit on the walls. It's all a labor of love and pain and energy from everybody in the archival profession to bring things to life like that.
And
That was poetry, Brandon. Yeah.
It was. No, and when we get it right, when we have the time to do all that work and we get the archives in order, we can start, as we all know, we can start using them and we can start showing the beauty of them. We do a fair amount of work with secondary school aged kids. So gymnasium, we call it in Sweden. So gymnasium level, they're 14 to 16, 15 to 17. And we invite them to come in, and we almost always start by asking a variant of the question, how do we know what we know? Which is our opening statement, to actually then start questioning things and finding source material. In the end, it's a way to show the sources that comes out of all these organized archives. But it's when we get that right, the kids really start understanding why you need to store things, why you need to archive things, why you need to cull, but then what you keep, what you need to organize properly so you can find it again. And we've done that for many years, but it's striking a nerve even more nowadays with all claims of false news and various contradicting testimonials of what actually happened. We have a neighbor who's invading another neighbor. Very conflicting stories if you look at them face blank. But once you start digging into the actual source material, that's why we know what we know.
That's a really great point. Yeah.
Sorry, one thing. No, I was just going to say as well, like sort of one thing that I find quite interesting when I visit some of our clients that we work with is that a lot of the times you're walking into a sort of highly professional academic environment where there's professionals, the archivists, curatorial staff, and so on. And in other situations, there's a whole mix of different other individuals that are then responsible for the archive. And I don't know whether this is more of a question to others rather than anything, but what's our sort of responsibilities there to sort of help those organizations to be able to bring the specialisms and the professional sort of work into that, specifically in corporate, I guess, but also we find it quite heavily within the military sector. We work heavily with regimental museums and sort of predecessor regiments, where a lot of the times they're sort of led and run by the sort of old boys often that are sort of working on the archives and the collections from that side as well. But I guess how can we be more promoting the profession in that way, and what our sort of role as vendors, suppliers, and so on can be to promote that as well within organizational structures, I guess. Throw in another question in there, I guess, from that, but
yeah, does anyone want to?
No, I wish that's the $1 million question that we're all trying to solve, I think. How can we get the companies to want to save stuff? It's their material, and they can do whatever they want with it. But how do we persuade them to actually spend time and budgets and hire consultants like us, or hire their own staff, or educate staff to actually preserve things for easy access later. And I don't think there's one answer to it, but an approach we've been taking is to make sure that they see the usability of the archive for HR purposes, for cultural building, for marketing purposes. It becomes a very instrumental way of looking at history, but it finds its way into the budget processes that way. And I think we're all working in the same way.